Good morning, everyone. Charger Troller here from the mask-wearing militant state of Michigan, where we are under the dictatorship of Gretchen Whitmer. And if you don't believe me, just ask Kelly Stafford. So I want to talk about an article that I came across on Yahoo this morning, which, well, kind of draws a lot of correlations between what we see and don't see. Something, I think it's called something like apoppornia, APP something. It's making connections that aren't really there. Kind of like if you're in the middle of the woods and you see two crossed sticks, two trees that are crossed, that means a Bigfoot is telling you not to go through here. Apoppornia. Well, this is kind of along those lines. So here was the article on Yahoo. Here's the headline. A plastic surgeon died from COVID-19 after giving lip filler to a patient who later tested positive for the virus. That's a pretty ominous headline. I mean, that really kind of all the pandemic deniers, I mean, that's pretty scathing there. I mean, that kind of removes all doubt. And for the people that believe in all the lockdowns and all the social distancing and the mask wearing and the hand washing and the sanitizers, I mean, there you go. We told you so. But if you read the next line, you kind of got to wonder. So here's the first bullet paragraph. A Beverly Hills plastic surgeon, Payman Simoni, died Friday. He died from a brain hemorrhage, potentially related to COVID-19. He was 50. Okay, died from a brain hemorrhage, but potentially related to COVID. All right. So, they said he used all the safety precautions. The patient, they took the temperature, everything was fine. She calls a few days later. I tested positive. He goes in and tests, and then he begins to feel ill. Goes into the hospital on a ventilator, dies from a brain hemorrhage. So that's the long and the short of it. So what that kind of tells you first, if you're a believer in everything that you're supposed to be doing, it eliminates the temperature thing. It eliminates the mask wearing. I mean, the only thing that's, unless the guy was using a 6-foot needle to do the Botox injection, which obviously he wasn't, social distancing probably is the only thing you can come out as saying, well, yeah, that might work. But what wouldn't 6 feet, standing 6 feet away from a person, basically keep you out of, I mean, if you stand 6 foot away from someone that has a common cold or the common flu, I mean, you're probably going to be pretty safe. So this kind of means, the masks don't work. I mean, Yahoo does a pretty good job of kind of scaring the hell out of you with that title. So now what's it say for all the deniers? Well, none of this stuff works. And then it also is kind of one of the more damning aspects of it is, so this is going to go down as a COVID-related death, even though he died from a brain hemorrhage. So just how many more people are in hospitals, or how many more deaths attributed to COVID were basically comorbidities, or they didn't die of COVID, they died with COVID. I think it's and that's why the statistics are going to be off, and they're going to get worse, because the antivirus does have a bit of the COVID virus in it. So everyone is going to test positive for COVID. I mean, they didn't say she had a COVID. Had she had a COVID shot, I'd be interested to hear that. As sorry as I am for him and his family, I feel bad for the patient who all this is sort of being attributed to. I mean, she could have tested positive because she went in and she had a COVID test earlier. She started feeling ill. They did a swab. Yep, I got COVID. Everyone that takes the COVID shot is going to test positive for COVID. So anybody that's got a runny nose or a headache is going to get tested for COVID, and they've already had the shot, they're going to test positive for COVID. So, brain hemorrhages are now being caused by COVID. And the other thing too is, if you look under, hemorrhaging, and they don't, he started feeling ill. And when you're talking about a brain hemorrhage that's not related to a fall, that's someone that just has a brain hemorrhage or an aneurysm, you begin to feel sick, you begin to feel weak. It has a lot of the common symptoms, I guess, you would find with COVID that other people have experienced. I mean, there's several people that say they've had COVID that have a lot of other factors. Like stiff neck. Some people may say, yeah, I had a headache and my neck was stiff. Well, a stiff neck is a symptom of an aneurysm. The weakness, the fatigue, the feeling ill. So a lot of the symptoms that he experienced were also symptoms of a brain hemorrhage. But Yahoo did its best to relate it back to COVID, which is really getting a lot more serious with how they're writing these down statistically and with diagnoses, that it does seem that pretty much everything is COVID related. So when you can get everything COVID related, it is going to get worse before it gets better. And with all these people getting the vaccines, and they're going to test positive for COVID, it is going to get worse. But almost it's going to get worse because people are demanding the vaccines, and people will. Unfortunately, we have an elderly population in the nursing homes, and they've gotten their shots. And then maybe 2 or 3 months later, someone unfortunately dies, and they're going to run a COVID test, and they tested positive for COVID. So it'll be related as another COVID death. So I think we've got to be, whether you believe in the pandemic or not, I think you need to be a little bit more critical of how it's being reported, and a bit more critical as to the diagnoses that they're, the comorbidities. That word's beginning to drive me as nuts as full stop and vis-a-vis. But anyways, I think we're gonna have to start looking, if people have had the vaccine, 50-year-old dies, they're talking a little bit about the common side effects from some of these vaccines is people getting sick and dying. I mean, happens with the flu vaccine. That's why a lot of people won't take the flu vaccine. So that's not an uncommon side effect. But I think we need to be a bit leery from now on with the reported COVID cases, because people that are getting the antivirus are going to be testing for testing positive. So I think we need to keep that in mind. So unfortunately, everything's going to be related to COVID. There's a lot more I'd like to say on it. I've heard debates before about, well, we're going to get forensic pathologists to come in here and and basically do autopsies, a second autopsy on the real factors of what caused the death. It's going to get crazy. But just keep an open mind and be a little bit critical when you start seeing some of these reports, because I don't think there's other factors involved, and they need to be looked at with a very critical eye before someone just goes ahead and relates a death, even potentially, to COVID-19. So this is Treasure Troller saying aloha and good day.